Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Villa Pride Down Under podcast. Tonight, there's only two of us, just for a quick jump on in chat. And unfortunately, Tess couldn't make it tonight, but I'm sure he'll be back with a bang very shortly. So you just have to put up with the Welsh wizard and the Irishman for tonight. Ryno, welcome. Thanks for jumping on again tonight, mate. How's things with you?
I'm good, mate. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. Yeah, not too bad. Just trying to get my head around the ever-changing transfer sagas at Aston Villa, but it's a good time of year. I wasn't expecting there to be this much stuff going on before the Euros.
I feel like we've been the busiest club so far, haven't we? Every day there seems to be something different going on with the Villa, or something changing with the Douglas Luiz deal, or someone else coming or going. So yeah, we've been busy, which is good. But it's silly season, so there's lots of rumors about and lots of stuff going on. But I think what we're doing at the moment has been very good business so far, from my point of view.
Yeah, it is. And like the Douglas Luiz saga is like almost like a soap opera at the moment. There's different characters coming in left, right, and center, different figures coming in. It's different people getting involved, people not wanting to be involved anymore, Spurs trying to wade in, and it's kind of it's getting really interesting. So
it's just dragged out, isn't it? Like, I thought it was going to be, signed, sealed, and delivered weeks ago, because it was pretty much agreed. But everything just keeps dragging on. Same with John Duran as well. So yeah, it's a few things just lingering at the moment.
Yeah, but it's interesting. At least it keeps us ticked over a little bit, while there's not too much happening around the place. Just where I wanted to start there, I know, is I wanted to start with Lewis Dobbin, because that's obviously one that just kind of came along and just kind of started to came out of nowhere, really. And I think from what I gather from it is basically Everton and Villa have decided to kind of help each other out a touch, because basically they've signed Tim Mirabunam for 10 million and we've bought Lewis Dobbin for in around the same. I don't know the exact figures in the end, but what was your opinion on that? Because that kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah, it comes straight out of left field. And to be honest with you, I'd never really seen much or heard much of Lewis Dobbin. And, Tim going the other way, we were talking in the week in our group chat, and that's a good move for him if he gets minutes at Everton, and a good price for Villa as well. 9 or 10 million straight in the bank, because he's, come through the academy. But then Lewis Dobbin coming the other way. So we're, like a lot of people are saying on Twitter, we're doing, Everton a favour and they're doing us a favour. And it's really interesting because, this could open up a lot of, not loopholes, but, transfers like this, where clubs are sort of, buying and selling youth players to each other to try and keep the books, and accounts with PSR all good. So, I don't really understand the logic, though, of, teams have these young guys on their books, they develop them, put a lot of time into them, and then we're selling one of our better younger players, obviously to balance the books, but then Everton around to say it just seems very counterproductive, doesn't it? The academy systems at the moment, and where that all fits in with, the PSR rules. Yeah, it's a strange one.
Yeah, as we mentioned in our group chat, it's like almost Monchi's time to sanction his inner Harry Redknapp for a month or two, because I remember when at the end of the season, Unai Emery said that we're going to have to be creative in the market, and he wasn't lying, was he? Like, they've been from reports, if reports are to be believed, apparently they'd been watching Sammy Ealing Jr. for a while anyway. So I suppose that was just an opportunity. Weston McKennie, obviously, we spoke about him last week, so we won't go too much into it, because I suppose it's easy for us to forget as fans. There's also players involved in this. It doesn't necessarily mean they want to come just because Juventus want them out. Like, a lot of players will decide, yeah, okay, you want me out, but I'll decide where I'm going, not you, So these players are still under contract, and I suppose they do get a final say in it where they go. So some players might be just doing it just to kind of stick two fingers up at the selling club too, because that deal seemed to be done and dusted. Like, there was no kind of, like, it was just a matter of time. And then suddenly there was links to Spurs coming out, and then all of a sudden the deal was off, and we're looking at this young Argentinian lad, holding midfielder, Enzo, I'll butcher his name now, but Enzo Baraneccia or something, I presume.
Yeah. Baron Chia or something like that. Yeah.
So I actually had kind of a bit of a look into him today, like, because I've heard the name, I'll be honest, but I'd be lying if I said I know a world about him. But he's come from good stock anyway, because he came from Old Newell's Boys in Argentina, which is a famous club of Mr. Lionel Messi. So if he ends up being half the stature of him, we'll be happy enough. But he came over to FC Sion in Switzerland, and he didn't play that many games for them. And then he got snapped up for the Swiss for the Juventus underage teams. Done quite well there. And then he went off. I think he only played 5 games for Juve or something. But then he went off to Frosinone. Is it Frosinone? They got relegated from Serie A.
Yeah, and he played a lot of games there, didn't he? He played about, I was just looking into him earlier as well, like 35 games. So he's playing first team football, which is good, because you tend to see some of these young players just sitting in the academies, playing in the next gen comps, which is good, but is nothing like proper men's football, is there? And sort of going down a division like they do over here or back home, where they drop into the championship, and that's where you see players develop. And he managed to get 35 games in, so that's pretty good for a young guy.
Yeah, and he would have been busy, because I think they actually got relegated from Serie A. But from what I can gather, he's kind of the one that came out with a lot of credit out of it. And actually, I think similar to when Douglas Luiz played at Girona, because I think Girona got relegated the year Douglas Luiz was there as well. And again, he was the kind of one that came out with a bit of credit out of it, and his career didn't turn out too bad in the end of the year. It's over in Brazil in the Copa America. So I'd love to pick Unai Emery's brain about Douglas Luiz though, and see, is this is this a deal he wants to do, or is it literally just needs must? Because if it's needs must, it's a bit disappointing that it's come to this. But look, Brighton have been unearthing these South American gems for quite a while. So who's to say this lad isn't going to come out and just suddenly rip it up, and just be worth every cent that Douglas Luiz is,
Yeah, and with Timur Igbunam going across to Everton, then that leaves a bit of a hole for the defensive midfielder role, doesn't it? With Kamara still being injured. I can't remember when his return is. I thought it was Christmas.
They're talking
time?
October, November.
Was it October, November?
They typically say 9 months for an ACL, but that's just to be back in the team. Like, how long do you actually take to get back to full fitness? So 9 months roughly. So that would be October, November. But
so there's definitely a gap there, isn't there, for that defensive midfield slot? And everyone, before this week would have said Timur Igbunam's probably going to get some minutes, but a good offer from Everton, 9-10 million on the books for us is good, but then there's definitely a hole there. The Ross Barkley deal hasn't been confirmed yet, but he's another one who's likely to come in, it looks like. But we definitely need some bodies in the midfield. So I think, with the McKennie portion of the Douglas Luiz deal falling through, they're probably looking at the squad now, and this, Baron Chia, he's a big boy as well, actually. I was just looking, he's 6'1", and he's a fair size to him. So he's sort of fit in that transfer profile we've been talking about big lads coming in and sort of raising the height of the team. But there's definitely a gap in that position. And even last season when Kamara went out, it's well documented, isn't it, that we sort of struggled a little bit. So it'd be good to get some coverage in there.
I'm going to be honest. I think we're going to see a big name or a big profile player come in there. Once all this PSR is kind of moved on and they can start to concentrate on their business, I can't imagine that Enzo Baroncina is there for here and now. I imagine he's going to be a little Emery project. That's just my opinion. Look, Rodgers was probably the same, and he hit the ground running, and so he's going for pre-season. So I suppose it's over to him now whether how much minutes he's going to see in the league. So he could come in and tear it up, but you just kind of feel that there's going to be a bigger name come in there, don't you? Like not necessarily a bigger name, but like a more experienced player. And with Villa, it's more experience. You're talking 24, 25, and not expecting a 31-year-old to come in there. But that's my feeling. I think this is just needs must while his PSR is hanging over. But I think they're trying to get over the spreadsheet now, and then I think we'll make moves. That would be my opinion on it, really.
What do you make of this John Duran stuff, mate? Because this is dragging on a bit as well, isn't it? And for me, if it doesn't go through with Chelsea, how does that look for both parties, and John Duran and Villa?
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a mess, isn't it? Of course, we're only getting speculation from the papers, and everybody's piling in at the moment because they're all desperate for a bit of news. But by all accounts, like, he's asking for too much money. So I don't know. Again, we're not going to go down this route we spoke about last week, but again, that kind of signals maybe the agents are kind of getting in his ear. I don't know, but I was listening to a separate podcast the other day, and Jacob Tanswell was like, we need to be very clear here. John Duran loves Chelsea more than Chelsea love John Duran. So like, it's a deal Chelsea will walk away from if they have to, and that must be irritating for Emery probably as well. That's not, Jacob didn't say that, but in my own opinion, I was thinking that must be irritating for Emery. So he's probably been disruptive all season. Now they have a chance to move him on, and he's being disruptive with that. But look, he's entitled to negotiate as well and get the best deal for himself, But it's becoming at this stage, I just kind of want that done because you don't need that hanging over him. Because
it's
kind of surely it's
I
come to the point of no return. No, like how can you tag out the first day of the season?
Yeah, I can't see any way back for him, really, like with everything that's been going on and how dragged out it has been. So I hope it gets done, because it'd make for an awkward dressing room if he rocks up first day of pre-season and all the lads are there and he's been liking all the Chelsea tweets and basically shopping himself down there. We might have another Peter Odemwingie on the go here. He might just rock up down there on the transfer deadline day.
Walking into a dressing room where you've already had your captain say live on TV that you're a difficult player to play with, and now then you're trying to move on, and now you have to come back to a dressing room. But look, come here. These things can be ironed out too. Like sometimes if you're good enough, you're overlooked. So like if he comes in and has an amazing preseason, players will forget about that kind of stuff very quickly.
Yeah,
it's it won't be as awkward as say Paqueta walking into his dressing room if things don't work out for him. When his teammates realised that that he was throwing games for them and taking yellow cards. So yeah, football's kind of going down a really interesting rabbit hole at the moment. Like what do you think of it? Like, do you think this is kind of becoming a bit of a joke now, where they have to wiggle the room so much? And like, is Lewis Dobbin really someone Villa are after, or is it just kind of, okay, he's a talented winger, maybe we can do something with him, and it's just needs must? Or what's your opinion on it?
I think it's becoming a bit of a mess, isn't it? And I think clubs, now are going to try and do anything they can to balance the books and put themselves in a good position to be able to spend and get players in. Do I think Lewis Dobbin was of interest? Not really. I think he's obviously a talented boy and an out-and-out winger, which we don't really have a lot of out-and-out wingers in our squad, so could probably come in and fill that hole a little bit. But we've got, so much competition for places out wide now, especially with, the likes of Jacob Ramsey coming back. I know Buendia doesn't play out wide, but he's going to be looking for a spot further forward. I just think there's loopholes now being exposed. I'd be surprised if the FA doesn't close down on stuff like this, and the rules will change again. But clubs like Everton, it's sad to see where they are financially, and you never want to see clubs going through stuff like that, especially a club like Everton. And I don't know, it's going to become, I think it'll get worse before it gets better, basically.
Yeah, and it's good to see two traditional clubs like Everton and Villa helping each other out, though, because Everton are a club, it's hard to dislike them. They've been around for a long time. Ryno, there's been a bit of speculation, and we're revisiting it again, about one Mr. Tammy Abraham, and I just wonder what your thoughts on that are.
He's been linked with us quite a few times, hasn't he, over different summers, and I've always been of the same opinion that I wouldn't go back, to be honest with you. I feel like his time with us was great when we were in the Championship, did really well for us. But one thing with Tammy I always sort of thought was he needed more chances, not as clinical as what I think we need right now. And is he going to come and sit on the bench behind Ollie Watkins? I don't think so. He's going to want to start. For me, I've always said I'd probably look elsewhere. Loved him while he was at the Villa, but that time has kind of been and gone, and I don't really like going back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he'd sit as a backup striker anyway. I think if he came here, that's why I personally don't see it happening. It's hard to see him coming, and unless Emery is literally, maybe trying to bring in a bit of, because they're quite, I won't say they're exactly similar players, but they're a similar kind of profile. Tall, big, strong, athletic lads. Like, so you can see where the links are coming from. Like you could see him in an Emery team. You know what I mean? But
100%.
but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
give you it doesn't give you that like for like off the bench. But what it would give you is allow Ali to rest in some games, and it wouldn't distort the shape of the team, which obviously Ali nearly had to play the majority of games last season, the majority of important games anyway.
And that's the worry, isn't it, with the John Duran transfer? If that does go through, then who have we got on the books then as strikers, really? I think obviously Cameron Archer's come back, but I think that ship has sailed and he'll be heading for another move, whether that's a loan or a transfer. But if the Duran transfer goes through, you'd put your house on us getting another striker in, wouldn't you?
You'd have to, yeah. But it's probably the two probably hardest signings to make are a backup goalkeeper and a backup striker. You know, I mean,
Agree.
I'd probably give Spurs as the perfect example for that for Harry Kane. Sure, they had the money for a striker for a long, long time and they couldn't get one because Harry Kane's going to start. And people who know Ali Watkins are going to start. Ali Watkins is so important to the whole system at Villa. And Emery, I don't think I've ever heard Emery criticise him once. He's always talks about he comes in, he does his work. He even when he doesn't score, he's critical to the off the ball stuff. You know, he's never criticised him or John McGinn. And you know, you've seen him criticise Douglas Luiz on the pitch. You've seen him, you've seen him get animated with John Duran. You've seen him get animated with Yuri Tillemans. But you've never seen him animated with McGinn or Ali Watkins. So they're obviously carrying out their detail to what he's expecting of him in each game down to a fine art. So I don't see him. I don't ever see a situation where anyone but Ali Watkins is starting the Champions League game or, apart from injury. So how do you sell that to a Tammy Abraham? Like, so then you've to come down to the next level of striker, and it's kind of like, well, what's the word? And Emery's not the kind of guy just to squad depth fill for no reason. It looks like he's actually maybe starting to know, but I'm sure these players that he's even buying now, he sees potential in them. I don't think it's a case of just squad filling. I think he's still buying these players that he thinks he can work with. He's like, I see a lot of people complaining about Lewis Dobbin. Oh, he doesn't even start for Everton, but Everton, like, Unai Emery's system is very, very different to a Sean Dyche system. Just because you don't start for John Dyche doesn't mean you're not going to start for Emery. Every player's attributes are different, and Sean Dyche is a very regimented 4-4-2, very hard to play against. Not great in the ball, but you have like Dwight McNeil for them, who's more of a job as a winger is to help his fullback as opposed to help his striker, even though Dwight McNeil can do it. He's obviously been at Burnley a long time with Sean Dyche as well, so he knows what's expected of him in that role. So I think it's unfair just to say, look at him and say, well, he hasn't played for Everton, so why should we sign him ourselves? Because I think that's irrelevant, because every system is different. It's different now if you're buying an out-and-out striker and he's not good enough for a Premier League team. You're like, well, why are we taking him? But wingers are different because the system can be so different. He's obviously got pace. He's played 15 games last season, I think. I remember one particular goal he scored against Man United, I think it was. And there's obviously something there. Is he going to start every week? No. But to make that comparison. But then in the striker thing, it's very different. It's a very different scenario because Emery can make 3 or 4 systems where the wingers are vital, but there's only one system for the striker. Like that never changes. Ali Watkins' role is similar in most games, bar the odd game where he plays that little bit wider, but that's just to make space for the runners into the box. It doesn't change his position on the pitch, just where he makes his runs from. That's it. So it's a hard sell to a striker, I think, unless you find a good up-and-coming young player and you can promise them minutes. But again, they're just not out there. So
it is the hardest position, isn't it? Getting strikers and just keeping them happy on the books, like you say, it's so hard, and you've got to pay a premium for the top strikers, and the top strikers ain't going to come and sit on the bench. But with Lewis Dobbin as well, I think Morgan Rogers is a good example for us of a player who came in from Middlesbrough, a young player, obviously doing really well in the Championship. And I think a lot of us weren't really expecting him to play as much as what he did, but came in and played really well and kept his position. And I think, it goes to show that Emery will play on form and we're going to need bodies this season. We've already spoken about Champions League, the 2 cup competition. So the bench last season was very thin. So I think there's going to be opportunities for Lewis Dobbin. He won't start a lot of games, but who knows? Out and out winger like him, and who knows what injuries we're going to get. This time, was it last season? We'd already lost, or early in the season, so we'd lost Buendia and Ming. So, yeah, you never know, do you? You never know what the season's going to bring, and just we need some bodies in there.
Yeah, and when you're a new young player coming like that, you need a bit of luck. Bad luck for another player, a bit of luck for yourself. And obviously, Ramsey's injury issues obviously opened a little gate from Morgan Rogers, and he grabbed it with both hands. Like there's no way he plays that many minutes if Ramsey had been fit. He just doesn't get that same opportunity. So now you're going into a situation where Ramsey's looking at Rogers and he wants his shirt back, and that's only a good thing for the club. And then you just hope it's a case of one of them takes it off the other as opposed to one of them getting a long-term injury again. I'm watching the Euros there, and I've been watched 2 Spain games particularly, and wow, that Nico Williams that we were on for, what a player he is. And
sensational, isn't he?
And I think it's pretty well known that before they went for Diaby, Nico Williams was their prime target, and they offered the release clause, but I think Nico Williams turned them down, and I kind of thought, oh well, maybe they go back in from this year now being a Champions League club, But I think there's going to be a lot more interest in that boy now. Like, wow, he is sensational, man. He's a pleasure to watch.
That's the problem with the Euros, isn't it? Like, players put themselves in the shop window and just drive their prices up then. So for us, it was kind of, I think maybe, obviously we didn't get him. We brought Diaby in, but that was probably our window to get him, really, wasn't it? Because some of the bigger boys will probably be sniffing now, and the value will probably be sky high. But yeah, he's been unbelievable. Spain, just such a talented team of players, though, aren't they? And I love watching Rodri from Man City. I just think he's just, for such a big guy physically, he's just a brilliant footballer who just makes Man City tick, and Spain as well. And just, he can actually play, he's good with both feet and good passer and just physically dominant as well. I love watching him play.
But like you see, and there's no disrespect to Declan Rice, but you see people comparing Declan Rice, they are not at the same level whatsoever.
Nah.
Like Rodri dictates tempos of games. Like Rodri, he's as a whole in midfielder, I'd say Rodri, because I think world class gets bandied about a bit too much these days. I think you have 2 good games now, people can say, and there's no disrespect to Declan Rice, but he doesn't impose himself on games. He's a good system player. But I've seen games where Man City have struggled and Rodri has just dragged them out of it and got them going again.
I was just about to say this. He pops up at key moments and scores
important goals as well.
Yeah, he does, and
he's got that nasty side to him as well. You know what I mean? He'll take a yellow card if he needs to. And I remember I used to be so impressed with Fernandinho. They used to play with them. And then, he was going down, and I thought, there's going to be a gap in America. And suddenly Rodri's coming in a few months before he's it's just even better probably than Fernandinho was. And that's the kind of player I'd like to see us get. I mean, obviously not that quality, but that profile, that big kind of lad who Emery can work with and make work in the system. And I still think we're going to see it come in, because Kamara's going to come back eventually. And you'd like to see a big player that can sit in there next to Kamara as well as replace him, if you get me. Someone that they can play together, because Kamara is very good at dropping back and helping out that back three as well. And you could just see a big striker, big powerful holding midfielder coming in to help him out. But we just don't seem to be linked with them at the moment. We're just being linked with the young lads. But again, they're just trying to get over to this June 30th. I'm sure it'll probably be Euros over kind of August before we start seeing who they're really actually interested in for shaping the Champions League team,
How much more do you think it's going to take? Obviously Douglas Luiz is gone. The John Duran transfer. Do you think there'll be a couple more that'll need to go to balance the books, mate? Or how do you see it?
I think if we got rid of one big transfer like John Duran, again, this is just pure opinion. This is not basing this on anything, but from reading between the lines, I would say, I think if they get rid of John Duran or Douglas Luiz, it's looking like even possibly both. I can't see any more than that having to go. I think a case then will be move on a few of the academy players, get a couple of million. Like they have getting 10 million for Tim, maybe they get 3 million or for Kessler Hayden or 2 million, that kind of thing. I'm sure that's how they're going to balance it. So yeah, I don't expect there to be too many more going, unless it's just someone that we don't know. If another player moves, I don't think it'll be PSR related after them too, but there might be players that Emery just doesn't fancy and wants to move on,
Yeah.
Like we spoke about Matty Cash, I don't want to single him out again, but that kind of thing where it may not necessarily be PSR. Whereas Louise kind of says to me, yeah, PSR, whereas I think there will be players that he'll move on just because, sell before you buy kind of thing, but they're just not players that he sees in the system overall. Have you watched much of the Euros? Did you get a chance to see what Ollie Watkins' 20 minutes?
I did. I checked on England. I checked the highlights on. So I've just been watching mini matches, to be honest, with the 25-minute games where I can. The times are shocking. The times are shocking.
The 8 o'clock game at home is 3 o'clock in the morning for me. So,
yeah.
And then there's a midnight one. So I get to train in, and then I just watch the mini match from the midnight game, and then I watch the other mini match waiting for work to start. So, without knowing the scores. So that's how I've been. But those mini matches are good because it takes away a lot of the throws, but it still gives you a serious gauge of the game.
Yeah, it's perfect for us. You can watch 25 minutes, like you say, you get a good feel for the game. And watch the England highlights. They're under a bit of pressure already, aren't they, England? And I thought Ollie Watkins did all right, did well. It's always tough coming in, though, isn't it? Coming into a game, 70-odd minutes before he gets on the field. Yeah, I'd love to see him do well, get a couple of goals. But I don't know. I feel like in the next game, I think Southgate might make some changes to formation anyway. You might see a change up because the pressure's just cranked up on him. And some of the comments, particularly after the last game about not being able to replace Calvin Phillips, I thought was really strange, just sort of coming out with...
What a strange thing to say. The amount of midfielders he has at his disposable, and he references a guy who's had the worst season of his career.
A guy who's hasn't played any football for 2-3 seasons. Obviously we know his history at Man City, and then he's gone to West Ham and hasn't really ripped it up there. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Ollie Watkins get more minutes, to be honest with you. I think Southgate might change it up a little bit, formation. I would like to see him change it up. But he did all right, Ollie. I think very tough, though, coming on in these competitions. What did you make of it, mate?
Well, he offered runs in behind anyway, which wasn't offered all evening. So he done something. He had one good chance. Right, Keep made a good save, but the movement was brilliant. But again, like the rest of the team, he eventually ended up just kind of sitting back, and it's just classic England, isn't it? I've seen some funny memes there on socials and stuff. They were like, Gareth Southgate would wear a helmet on an exercise bike. And Gabby Agbanor had up there that Gareth Southgate would put his phone on low battery mode at 99%.
They've got so much talent, though, over there. I look at that, front 3 or 4, you're talking Phil Foden, Harry Kane, Bukayo Saka. You're talking about players who can just do some damage, but it just seems like Southgate gets them into this, I don't know, this rat, or doesn't give them enough freedom. I'm not sure what it is, or I don't know. Do you think they're freezing on the big stage, or do you think it's the formation and the tactics that's sort of strangling them?
Yeah, I mean, it has to come from the manager to some degree. I wonder it's because he's a defender. He naturally protects the defense, like an old school manager. Because back in the day, that's how you won tournaments. You got through like that. But those days are gone. I don't want to go all in England, but if they come up against Spain and Germany or play like that and give them that kind of space that they're giving Denmark and Serbia, going to get torn asunder.
Yeah.
Kieran Trippier is a good player, but he's a left back playing, or he's a right back playing in the left back at the moment. Yeah. I know they don't have a natural replacement for Luke Shaw, but that young lad, Lamine Yamal, the 16-year-old for Barcelona playing Spain, that lad is unbelievable. If he has to go 1-on-1 with Trippier on his wrong foot, he's going to make mincemeat of him. And then on the other side, Nico Williams is as quick as Kyle Walker, but just obviously a lot more tricky. So there's so much going on there. You'd feel for them, but I kind of feel a little bit for SJ Konsa as well. I don't. At the moment, Marco Gay has done really well. I think he's had a good, so I can understand that, but I don't think he's going to get any minutes barring an injury.
I don't either. I don't see him getting in. Like you said, Marco, he's done really well, hasn't he? And I think Southgate might make changes further forward. I don't think defensively he'll be too concerned at the moment, but again, though, you're talking about, playing a right back as a left back. And for a nation as strong as England, the depth that they've got, and even Luke Shaw, obviously he's been injured for a long time. And I get why they're taking him. He's just, a great defender, super talented. But you shouldn't be putting yourselves in this position, really, should you? There should be there's got to be more depth, isn't there? Surely.
I looked at his starting lineup last night, right? There was 3 right backs on the pitch. So he had a right back playing right back, Kyle Walker. He had a right back playing left back, Kieran Trippier, and he had a right back playing centre midfield, Trent Alexander. All the talent in that team, and you have 3 right backs on the pitch. It's baffling. Like, and I don't know, he doesn't help himself anyway, coming out saying that he hasn't been able to replace Calvin Phillips. In all fairness, you look at that team, you could drop Jude Bellingham back. You could start Conor Gallagher. You could. There's loads of things you could do. There's loads, and then he came out and said that he has to experiment at the moment. Can you imagine going into it? You're 2 games into a tournament. You're talking about experimenting, and then you've Kane, the captain, coming out saying they don't know how to press. He says, as a team, we don't know how to press. So you've got the manager saying that they're missing a player who's been terrible all season, and you got the captain saying we don't know how to press. They just don't look very well coached, to be honest with you. That's what it comes down to, I think. It must be very frustrating for the likes of Foden and Bellingham and that to, come from Madrid and Man City, where you're used to dominating the ball and there's talent around you, because the talent is around them. I don't know. I don't think they're going to go very far in the tournament. If they don't top the group, they're not going to go far, because they'll most likely meet Germany in the next round. And I'd like to see him give Ollie Watkins a run Sunday, but he won't, or Tuesday, because he's not going to drop Kane. He's just
nah. You don't think they'd go 2 up top at all? I can't see Kane and Watkins playing together, really. Can you?
He's finding it hard to already make a midfield that he is, let alone changing his shape to shoehorn players in. The only way he might do that is if he put Anthony Gordon on the left and went a bit of a 4-4-2. But it's just Southgate just doesn't do that. He doesn't change a team that hasn't lost. Like, I think the only change would probably be Trent come Tuesday, but I think that will be the team again, unless he goes to a back 5, and then there might be a chance of Konza getting in there. But that's the only chance, I think.
Yeah, which is disappointing, isn't it? But because Konza's had such a good season, but it is hard. You knew before going into the tournament, Southgate doesn't typically like to change anyway, does he? Like you said, he sticks with what he knows and what he likes. Has your opinion changed on who's going to win the tournament, mate? Where are you sort of sitting on that front?
I still think my Germany, my backing Germany at the start of the tournament, I still think that was a good shout. It's looking kind of better every time. Spain have probably been the most impressive team. I think their movement and there's just so much balance in their midfield with Rodri, Pedri, and Fabian Ruiz, the 3 of them. Just like the way they play together. And then you have the 3 up front with, like, Alvaro Morata. I am not a big fan of his, but he suits them down to a T for that system. Hold the ball up, runs in behind, and then just lets the 2 lads do their damage. But like the balance in that Spain team, this pace they play at as well, it's going to be very, very hard to stop, because they're just so creative. Even Mark Cucurella is having an unbelievable season tournament at left back, and I just didn't see that one coming, But they can be brave because they trust Rodri, to sit there. I'm kind of slightly disappointed that Nico Williams has had such a good tournament, because there was still a part of me hoping that we'd see him by the summer. But I just can't see it now.
I was just about to ask you as well, if you could take one player from the Euros so far to Villa, who would it be? And I'm assuming Nico Williams would have been your pick, mate.
Yeah, like, is it a realistic one, or is it any player the Euros?
Yeah, anyone.
Right now to suit our system, just him to play on the left. It's just this sensational baller. I just think you could go into games realistically with Williams on the left, Bailey on the right, and Diaby and Watkins up top. I mean, that's a scary team, because to be honest, like, I talk about Williams coming in, but I have to say I'm expecting a big season from Diaby. Like I said this to you last season, Ryno.
Yeah.
There was a lot of messing around about his transfer, whether he's going to Al Nassr or whether he was going to come to Villa, dragged on for quite some time. So he didn't really get much of a preseason last year. He's coming to a new country to settle down. He started really well. He died off a bit. I think he's going to be a shining light next season. Like, he's undoubtedly talented. Like, and I think people often reference how look at Bailey, took time to get going, but Diaby's far ahead of what Bailey was when he was struggling. Diaby's not lacking; he's just lacking confidence. But like, you can see him scoring a couple of goals early in the season, and he'll be a weapon. And
we saw flashes, didn't we, last season? But not enough consistency. But it's like you say, I didn't really think of it as the way you've just put it there. But you're right. he had such a disrupted start, didn't he, to his Villa life? He was on and off, and then, like you say, the Al Nassr move looked like he was going ahead. Then it was off,
dragged
and
on
he
for
was at
quite some
Villa.
time, like
Yeah, it did, and that you can't underestimate that, can you? And move into a different country as well. But I think I agree with you, Spud. I think this talented boy there didn't get his place in the Euros. So he's going to be motivated as well, isn't he, to have a good season and try and win his place back in that France squad. He is serious weapon with his pace, though. You could see it last season that the ball was breaking and just defenses were just scattering, because once he gets a run, he's very hard to stop.
Yeah, if you can add a bit of confidence to that. Like, there was flashes of confidence. Like, he just had a very unlucky start too, because he was probably, when we lost 5-1 on the opening day against Newcastle, he was probably the only positive. He played really well in the first game as well. So, like, the expectations level went through the roof. It was similar to when Bailey had his debut against Everton, and then he got injured. But Diaby started so well. I mean, the first 5 or 6 games, I thought, oh, this lad's unreal. I do. I think we're going to see some. I think we're going to see big things from this season. I'm feeling he wants to play in the right. That's another thing. I think he's been played out of position too. Is another thing that you add to that mix. Like, so he's learning a position that Emery wants him to play in, that 4-4-2 behind Watkins. So no, I think a full pre-season now. I think it's a blessing he didn't get in the French squad, because he's going to be there from the very start of pre-season. Same with Pau Torres.
Yeah,
blessing that he hasn't gone to the Euros. Disappointed for them, obviously, themselves as players, but for Villa, it's brilliant that they didn't get selected. They're going to be there from the get-go. Neither of them were there from the get-go. Torres is another one who had a big transfer saga. Is he coming? Is he not? So to have the two of them from the very first opening game against Walsall in the pre-season, so they're going to go through the whole system through America. Brilliant. Like, I'm expecting big things from Diaby, and so maybe that's why we're not seeing big names come in those positions as of yet. But look, if Emery wants to add Nico Williams to that, then I'm game ball. What is there any player you would love to add from there?
Oh, yeah, I've been looking at a few, and that, I know he's probably not realistic, but Florian Wirtz from Germany, just an unreal footballer, mate. Oh, that Jamal Musiala. I think I butchered his name. Musiala. Musiala.
Their front three is unbelievable.
Just watching Germany. I've really enjoyed watching Germany, and they seem to have got a bit of spark back, but they've got so much talent in that team. And those two in particular, just brilliant footballers, lovely feet, can finish, and just so clever with the ball, and so young though, like 19 or 20 is, no age, and they're ripping it up already. So I'd take either one of those, mate, no problems.
Julian Nagelsmann, he has to get credit. He's found a way to get the best out of Kai Havertz too, isn't he? Getting some legs around him and just let him, like at Chelsea, the onus was on him to create the movement, but he's just almost being that kind of central striker where they're not relying on his legs, they're relying on his brain, because they've got Wirtz and Musiala playing so close to him, and then you have Toni Kroos just feeding him, him and Gundogan. Like, it's a balance in that team, and Rudiger at the back is very good as well. So The player though, if someone asked me, like, would Williams would be kind of a dream from his performance in the Euros, but if someone was to ask me right now, if someone said to me who is the player I'd most like to sign for Villa right now, it would be Joe Paulinho. I know he's on the bench in Portugal at the moment; he's not really playing, but I think he would be ideal for the Villa system, particularly with Kamara out. I think he's a ball winner. He's got a bit of nastiness about him. He picks up yellows when he needs to. He throws in tackles. He can play. I think he'd be so perfect. He's a big lad too, so he's good in both boxes. Never underestimate that ability to have a bit of a nasty streak as well. I think it's so vital in like you watch like Rodri, like he always just picks up these little fouls. And I don't think Declan Rice has that in his game as much as Rodri. That's another thing where, but Paulinho has it. Like, I think he got suspended twice last year too for 10 yellows as well. And he's just sensational footballer. Again, Bayern are sniffing around him, so I don't know if they're going to come back in for him. He was over in Germany to do a medical last year and all on deadline day, but they had to pull the plug because Fulham couldn't get a replacement on deadline day, so they flew him back from Germany.
Remember. Yeah.
So you'd kind of wonder, is there a gentleman's agreement in there between Bayern, Fulham and Joe Paulinho to make it happen this year after the saga of last year, But again, they have a new manager in who's Vincent Kompany fancies him. You just don't know. But I think I think at Bayern though, you're not really asked who you want; you're told who you're getting, kind of thing. That's the deal. That's the deal at Bayern. That's how they operate. So, yeah, look, I think he'd be ideal because 60 million will probably get him from Fulham.
Yep.
They can't turn that kind of money down. He's ready for the Premier League. He's exactly what we're missing, especially with Kamara. Even with Kamara back, they could play together easily. And I just don't see it happening. But that would be my real ideal signing. Who would be your ideal realistic signing? Someone that you could be in. What position do you think is most? If someone said to you in the morning, who do you need to sign for this system? Is there a player that sticks out for you?
For me, I would sort of agree with you. I think we have been missing a big, dominant, physical player in midfield. I saw, Onana's been linked from Everton, but I'd also think for me, right back is probably another position where I'd want to see a step up a bit. So I'll go a bit different. I'll go that Denzel Dumfries from Inter Milan. Whenever I've seen him play, he's him or Frimpong from Leverkusen, but I'll go Dumfries from Inter Milan. I think he's gettable, and I also think the right back is a position that we could and should strengthen. I think we're quite short there, and I think Matty Cash, we've already spoken about in earlier pods, that probably hit his ceiling a little bit. He's been a great servant for us, but I think that's a position, if we could get some improvement on that right-hand side, it probably opens up a lot more of an attacking threat as well then, and probably different formations and a different choice at left back, whether we go to a 3 at the back with wing backs. And I think having someone who's probably a little bit better in that final third would really help with that type of formation. So, yeah, someone like Denzel Dumfries for me would be a brilliant shout. Whether he's gettable or not, I don't know. And we've seen Matty Cash has been linked to AC Milan. So there's no smoke without fire. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something happen on that right-hand side.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's a position that Emery's never really been fully convinced of. And look, I'm not going to go down the route of bashing Matty Cash. We spoke enough about him last week, and we gave our opinion on him. That we all like him, but maybe he's not the player that we need going forward. But a lot of our attacks over the season have broke down because of Matty Cash. But obviously, he's offered other things as well. So I'm not going to say anything too bad about him. I would just, if he left in the morning, I'd wish him luck, and I'd hope he'd have a stellar career. But again, he'd probably be where I'd like to upgrade. There's interesting times ahead, I think, because once this PSR is out the way of June 30th, it could be open field, and I think we're going to see what Emery's really thinking, because who's to say he's not going to be looking for a change of system. I think he'll probably want to become more tactically adept, as in, like, being able to play a different system, because we were quite hamstrung last year. We had to play a lot of the system over and over. And I won't say we got found out, but teams kind of realised if you flood the midfield against us with Kamara out injured, you're going to see a lot more of the ball, because there wasn't a natural between Tielemans, McGinn, and Douglas Luiz. None of their best attribute is defending. They're all better further forward. They all done a great job there. The last thing I was going to ask you right now, before we wrap up, is Buendia coming back into the side. Like you'd expect. Let's say he comes back and he's fit. The fitness isn't the issue. He's not picking up little niggle injuries, which can always happen after an ACL injury. So I don't think we're going to see much of him in August, but let's say September he's come back, and I think he'll play a few good. Hopefully, he gets to play a few preseason games, but I don't expect him to play in those first couple of weeks in August. I think he maybe on the bench or whatever. But let's say he gets back to full fitness and he starts playing. Do you see him in that team? And when I say do you see him in that team, do you see him coming in as that number 10, let's say, and then Yuri Tielemans is the one to drop back and play a little further deeper, or what do you see happening there?
Possibly. I think that's the best option for Buendia, and where he can play is probably further forward, that 10 position. I think it's going to be a real battle for him to get back in, to be honest. I think with the injury he's had and the way that the other players have sort of come in now, and the way players like, Bailey had a sensational season. He's probably one of our best, wasn't he, through the season? You've got like Diaby, Morgan Rogers, Jacob Ramsey, Tielemans all fighting it out. And the bonus is Tielemans could probably sit a little bit deeper and allow Buendia to go there. But for me, I struggle to see where he gets minutes, to be honest with you, at the start. I think they'll probably have to ease him in slowly anyway, which is probably going to be beneficial. But yeah, it's going to be tough for him to get back in. And I do think Again, Buendia is not one of Emery's signings, so he's obviously been at the club for a while. Is Dean Smith signing, I think, Buendia?
Yeah, he came
Yeah.
that Grealish money, yeah.
So again, if obviously you can't sell him now because he hasn't played for a season, but I do think he's one player that could potentially be shifted on once he's fit and up and running. I just don't see where he fits at the moment.
Do you think he could go on loan if he got up to speed? Do you think he could be a late loan out in the window?
Probably a good
till January or something.
I think that's probably not a bad move for him if they could get him alone. There's a lot more games to play this season, though. So, and there's obviously going to be injuries and suspensions. But I know we've all seen Buendia and how he sort of carries on when he gets subbed or if it's not going for him. He's quite vocal, isn't he, and quite animated. So I can't imagine him being very happy if he's going to spend a lot of time on the bench.
I agree.
You do need a lot of depth.
Sorry. I was going to say, yeah, I agree with that. But also, you have to remember he's coming back from a long-term injury. He's going to be a bit different. He might be happy. He could be buzzing to just be back involved. You know what I mean? Just, and there will be cup games. But no, I do take your point, though. Like, he wouldn't be a very good tourist, let's say.
What do you think, mate? Where do you see him fit in this squad and the team?
Yeah, I'm like you. I think it's very hard to tell until we see how he comes back because some players come back stronger. Like the one thing with Buendia's age is on his side. Like I'd be more concerned about Mings getting back to full strength ever than I would be Buendia because I think Emery likes him. The only thing about Buendia is I think his best strength is kind of off the cuff football. Emery doesn't really allow off the cuff football too much. It's it's structured. And I think Buendia is like your moments kind of player. I don't think. He's just there's definitely a place from there, but I don't think there's a place in the first 11, in my personal opinion. Even fit and firing, I just don't think he's structured enough. He likes to do his flicks, turns, and stuff, and he's a very good footballer. Like from a fan's point of view, he's a joy to watch. I think it's a bit annoying watching him throwing his hands up and stuff like that, but at least he cares, I suppose, to some kind of level. But I just don't know is he an Emery player for me. I hope I'd love to see him come in and do well because he's a talented boy, obviously. But yeah, it's funny because a good friend of mine, Shane, he's a big Chelsea fan, and he was talking about Cole Palmer, and he was talking about he was watching his goals and how off the cuff he was, and how brilliant he was, left, right, foot, and I was like, yeah, but like I hope for Cole Palmer's sake, when Maresca comes in, who's a disciple of Pep, like he's going to want to control games and stuff, like that can be coached out here. Like we've seen it with Grealish and Pep. Like it may not benefit Cole Palmer in the overall, but the team will be better for it. So I don't know. Is he going to be allowed to roam like he did under Pochettino? And I think Buendia kind of comes under that kind of blanket for me. I think there's other teams where players like that can do better. But look, he's had a year to sit out injured. I'm sure he's studied a lot of trainings. He's still involved, so he would have taken a lot of information in too. So he could be understanding of this system very well when he comes back too. Alone, I think would probably be the sensible option. It depends on who comes in, who goes out. But he's the kind of player you kind of see that'll be with us this year, but he'll be one of the ones sold next year. That's my kind of feeling of it. I think he'll just be another body for this season. Get up to speed, then he could be moved on.
I agree, mate, 100%.
Ryno, is there anything else you wanted to touch off after we jumped on tonight, and just before we wrap up? Is there anything that kind of else comes to mind for you?
I just wanted to say thanks to everyone out there who's sort of been interacting with us on our socials and sending us messages or following us on Facebook and Twitter. It's really good to be speaking to everyone again, and give us a like, give us a subscribe on our socials, and get involved. Ask us questions. Let us know what you want to hear on the podcast, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like that's what we want, fans interaction. So it's been very good there. Like the podcast has had a very good start. A lot of fans are getting involved, and we're getting a bit of support from the Australian Villa supporters as well, which is really important to us as well. Ryno, if people do want to get in touch with you on your socials, where can they find you?
You can get me on Twitter at Ryno_Watkins. I am on Instagram as well at Ryan_Watkins3. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm on Facebook as well, and obviously we've got our Facebook page as well. So get in touch with us on there.
Yeah, and if any of you want to hear from me, it's at AVFC Spud on Twitter, and it's just Mark Spud Holmes on Instagram and Facebook. But of course, that's just our own personal ones. The main one we want you to hit up is the @Philip Down Under. You can see it coming across the bottom of the screen. That's our access for the podcast and the socials. That's where we're most accessible. Hit us up on that. Questions for the pod, ideas, any interaction. Just hit the follow. Guys, also it's for us, we'd love if you could like and subscribe to this podcast. Again, it doesn't cost anything, but it really helps us. And if you enjoy the show, just hit the like. That's it. It's very easy. It takes 2 seconds to do. Hit the subscribe, write a review, hit stars. It all helps the podcast get out there. And we're just the same as you. We're just Villa fans who like to talk about Villa and just like to jump on. So the more Villa fans we can reach, the better. And you can play a part in that by hitting the like, subscribe, and follow buttons. And that's where we're going to wrap up for today, Ryno. So
beautiful.
All that's left to say really is up the Villa and on to next week.
Villa. Yeah, let's go.